Everyone talks about how to raise money, go viral, or scale fast, but no one talks about the sleepless nights, the layoffs, the failed launches, the pivots, the moments you wonder if you're really cut out for this as an entrepreneur. That's the hard thing about hard things. Today, we're going to dive into one of the most honest startup books ever written and unpack how to lead when everything might feel like it's falling apart. What is the hard thing about hard things? It was written by Ben Horowitz, the co-founder of Andreessen Horowitz, and it's a survival guide, not a playbook for success, a survival guide. Ben led a company called LoudCloud through the dot-com crash, restructured it into Opsware, and eventually sold it to HP for $1.6 billion. He teaches how not to avoid the hard things, but how to face them head on. As Ben says, by far the most difficult skill he learned as a CEO was the ability to manage his own psychology. I could not agree with this more. Being able to manage your energy tanks, your physical and your emotional energy tanks, and knowing when they're full or low and how to deal with this is so important as an entrepreneur and as a CEO. The core idea of the whole thing is there isn't really an easy way. Hard decisions come with no perfect answers. Do you have to fire your best friend? Do you have to kill a product and let it die that you've worked on for years? Do you have to take a down round? Leadership often means choosing between bad and worse and surviving anyway. In 2022, a study by NFX found a 61% of startup founders experience anxiety or depression. Harvard Business Review research also shows that companies navigating crises with open and transparent leadership are 2.5 times more likely to retain key talent and rebound faster. Ben's message: hard things are part of the journey, and honesty about them is the first step to getting through them. You can't always be delusionally optimistic as a CEO. You're gonna go through hard times, and you have to be honest with yourself. I'll share some stories from Estated as well. I had my own hard thing moments. After scaling fast and reaching a point where our engineering team had too many people, we were burning too much cash, we didn't have a clear ROI, and our product never actually made it to market in the capacity that we needed it to impress our clients. And so I had to restructure the team. I had to let go of loyal and talented people who had been with me for years. It was one of the hardest decisions of my life, but it forced me to sharpen our focus, cut unnecessary features and spending, and double down on what our customers actually cared about. That hard season ultimately led us to landing major clients and having an 8-figure exit. And I will never ever forget the day I had to tell the staff we weren't going to fire to not come into the office in the morning because we were about to lay off, I think, 20 people at once. There was another moment in Estated when we were acquired. We had about 20 some employees and only 3 or 4 were actually going to be, brought in through the acquisition to the new company. So I had to lay off absolutely everyone. This was in the middle of the pandemic. So I did it over Zoom, and these are extremely hard things that I had to do, but you don't have a choice as a CEO. You have to continue moving forward. It's been 3 years since that happened, and maybe for the first time in my life, I've admitted to myself that I'm burnt out from it still 3 years later. Now, mind you, I had to work at Adam for a couple years. I did not enjoy it, but at the end of the day, I really feel like the burnout is something you have to address. Right now, I'm in a mode of recharging, and all of this is just to give back because these business lessons, these books, these things had some influence on my success and the success of our businesses. So here's some of Ben's ideas that he shares in the book. There are no rules. There's only decisions. You can't follow a playbook when every single situation is unique. Leadership is about judgment calls you can live with. I give you all of this information and resources for startups and entrepreneurs just for this reason. Not all of them are going to fit, and you're going to have to tweak them, and they're malleable to your own business. But at the end of the day, you have to keep moving forward and you have to make decisions. Number 2 is to manage your own psychology. Startups are emotional roller coasters. You can do journaling, you can do therapy. There's lots of founder support groups to help you stay grounded. And founders with support systems like advisors, therapists, someone they can always go to when times are tough, because you can't always share it with your entire team. But a founder with a good support system is 3 times more likely to avoid burnout and 2 times more likely to be able to raise follow-on funding when the time comes. So number 3 he shares is take care of the people even when it's hard. Layoffs are tough and you have to have difficult conversations, but they must be done with honesty and respect. Always come into those conversations from a good place. How you handle them matters more than the fact that they happen. A great example of this was I was recently at a wedding, and arguably the most difficult employee I ever had while building a stated came up to me with his new wife, and we were chatting and introduced our wives together. And the first thing he said to my wife about me, and I did not see this one coming, was that Josh had created one of the best company cultures that he's ever worked for. And I took that really, really deeply. And I will never forget him saying that, because I fired him. I had many, many challenges with him. And not just 3 years later, this man comes up to me and says, Josh, I loved working at your company. He was extremely challenging though, but the people are so important. And I've been lucky enough to stay very close with a handful of my employees from those times. And I'm really grateful to still be able to enjoy good times and get along cordially, you know? So number 4 that Ben talks about is sometimes you have to let loyal people go. The people who help you survive might not be the ones who help you scale. You owe them honesty and a dignified exit. This is what it's like when you're working with your friends. If you ever have to fire one of your best friends, it's the worst experience in the world. I've been really lucky. Evan and Emily and I have been working together for like 10 freaking years now. We've had a few times where it was close to Evan and I weren't going to work together anymore, and it makes me really sad to even think about it. But at the end of the day, thinking about firing my best friend, and I did have some really good friends I worked with that I had to let go of, it's always going to be hard. But if you go into those conversations with honesty and transparency, also good intention, I think you're going to come out the other side, and hopefully in a few years you can rekindle those things like what I was just talking about with my old employee. So a good example: before Slack became their $27 billion giant, Stuart Butterfield was building a game called Glitch, and it failed. But instead of folding it, the team pivoted to their internal communication tool, which was called Slack. It was a hard pivot, but it led to one of the biggest SaaS companies in the entire world. Another one is LinkedIn. Reid Hoffman's LinkedIn did not explode overnight. For the first year, growth was painfully slow. The team stuck with it, improving user value week by week, and today LinkedIn has like 1 billion members and generates $15 billion annually. Another great one is just Airbnb. They were rejected by investors over and over and over. They started scraping by selling cereal boxes just to survive, but they kept going. They refined the platform, they built trust, and they eventually turned into a $100 billion global hospitality disruptor, one of the biggest companies on the planet. And I'm just talking about these pivots. They made the hard decisions to move. Let's get into some tactical advice on how you can do this. Run toward hard conversations, not away from them. You have to have them. They're not going anywhere. If you don't have them, it's going to create resentment, and it's going to actually be more painful in the long run. Another thing is create a decision journal to reflect and learn. I have endless of these notebooks from my days as an entrepreneur. There's probably 50 of them. I think I go through about 3 or 4 a year, about 1 a quarter, sometimes one every, let's say, 4 to 6 months. But you have to be able to reflect, and every once in a while, you just got to write everything down and get it out of your system. You know what I mean? The next thing is hold a weekly, what's broken meeting. If it's your stand up or if it's your end of week, what we get done this week, you should also be talking about what's broken within our company so that you can review and surface any problems early. And then if you're a founder, the CEO, or a business leader, you need to have a support group. I've been so lucky. I had Accelerate Okanagan when I first started. Then I had Techstars. I had Cole Hatter. I had Dan Martell. I had SaaS Academy. Foundry Group, I cannot forget about them. Foundry Group was incredible to me. Probably the best support group, to be perfectly honest, along with Techstars, because they invested and they were with me the whole journey. And I knew that I had all their phone numbers and they were willing to pick up if I ever needed or anything. I was always wildly impressed with how Foundry would respond to me in 15 minutes when I would ask a question about anything I had to do, whether it was fundraising, product, team, whatever. Have a leadership group. The next one's focus on clarity, not perfection. At the end of the day, it's like that is really, really important when you're communicating under stress. Focus on your strategy and have a clear strategy of where you're going. It's not going to be perfect. You can't expect perfection when you're building a brand new company. You're going to run into all kinds of roadblocks and pivots and tough decisions. So no matter how talented or funded or lucky you think you are, there's going to be hard things in your startup. And what separates the best founders, it's not perfection, it's resilience, it's honesty, and it's action. And so to recap all this, there's no easy answers, only decisions. Managing your psychology is just part of your job. Leading with honesty beats avoiding conflict. You can do hard things and come out stronger. And if this lesson hit home, hit like and subscribe, join our channel. I'm giving away 100 of the best business lessons I've ever read about or ever learned in my entire life. And you guys can join our school program. You can go check out datanerds.com. We have all of this stuff templated out. For now, it's all free. At some point, it might be paid. But right now, I just want to give back to you. So drop a comment. Tell me what the hardest thing that you've ever had to deal with in your business as a CEO or an entrepreneur, and maybe we can jam on it. And I'm sure it will resonate because I had a lot of them myself. So thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next one.